welcome back. And if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Zoe and this is my channel, Ms. Manga, where I talk a lot about manga. Is that like my catchphrase now? I don't know. I said it too many times to stop saying it at this point. Oh, sorry if you can hear the wind. It's getting real windy out there. Anyway, today I'm going to be reviewing some of the first volume mangas that came out this month or last month, but you know, relatively recent releases, and just going to be giving you my thoughts on them. This is going to be quick and dirty, and I don't have a lot of time to edit, so sorry about that. I'm going to try and be brief, and let's go. So first up we have Witch of Mine. This is a full color kind of narrow volume, but it was a very compelling story and it has gorgeous artwork.
This story begins in a place
where if you are too good at something or very bad at something, even too beautiful, then you can be labeled as a witch. But there are still these magical beings that exist that are witches as well, who have powers. They can time travel even to different dimensions, and sometimes they do so in the pursuit of love with human beings. So yeah, this is a story of a witch and a young boy who are up against the twists of fate and time. I don't want to say too much, but it's one of those kind of tugs at your heart stories, I think. This gave me kind of Spirit Circle vibes, if you've read Spirit Circle. And I really like things that have to do with time travel, kind of living different lives, being in different dimensions or time periods. And so the premise really intrigued me, and I'm very curious where volume 2 is going to be, because it seems like it's the end of this witch and her love story, and then it might pick up in the beginning of a new love story for a different witch perhaps, or that's what I'm guessing. I will definitely pick up volume 2. I found this one was unique and different story premise, and if you like romance or with fantasy aspects like I do, then I think you'll enjoy it. Next up we have Boys Abyss. So this one is about a very small town, they call it the Boonies, middle of nowhere, and this boy Reiji lives and seems to be kind of saying abused, but he kind of is being abused by everyone except for his one childhood friend. His other friend seems to be using him as a gopher. His mom is kind of taking advantage of him to an extent. Even though we see her life is hard, she shouldn't be putting this much on the shoulders of a teenager. It's not right. And so I have a lot of sympathy for Reiji, sorry if I'm saying his name really badly, but anyway, I have a lot of sympathy for him, and it's just a very tragic character so far. And then this one bright spot in his life is that he stumbles upon this mysterious woman who is working the counter at a convenience store. And he recognizes her as a famous idol, or semi-famous, but an idol nonetheless. And he's like, what the heck are you doing in this small nothing town? So anyway, it's very clear that both of them have troubled lives, and they seem interested in a story about the lover's abyss, which is a tragic tale of lovers taking their own lives. So it very much gives me No Longer Human vibes, and kind of the beginning of Flowers of Evil, a little bit of those vibes where a girl kind of brings the side of the boy out, if that makes sense. I haven't gotten very far into the series, so I don't know how much it's similar, but just the first volume of that one this kind of reminded me of it a little bit. Just bringing another side of and kind of unleashing some of the inner thoughts and feelings of this teenage boy with the help of meeting this woman. And yeah, it seems like it's gonna be kind of possibly a sad and kind of mysterious story. I am not sure where it's gonna go from here, but I am definitely curious and glad I pre-ordered volume 2 already. Next up we have Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. This one's just sweet and cute and fantasy. I mean, there is a darker element to it, and that is that humans rebelled and rose up against fairies hundreds of years ago, and now they can tear off a fairy's wing, one of their wings, hold that wing captive and kind of control fairies. So there is a dark element. But when I say it's sweet, it's just like the premise seems so sweet and fantasy light, just like a light-hearted fantasy. This girl that we are following, Anne Halford, she has recently lost her mother and wants to become a master sugar sweets artist or whatever it's called. They make these really fantastical and magical sweets out of sugar apples. So yeah, she has enlisted the help of Chal, who is a fairy warrior. So she has essentially bought his help, I guess, instead of enlisted. And so she holds his wing, and she says she's going to free him as soon as he can get her safely to the city in which they're holding the competition to see if she can be the sugar master treat maker thing. So eloquent. Yeah, I'm really rushing this one, sorry. But yeah, her fairy bodyguard is obviously reluctant to help, and she's reluctant to give him direct orders, which is the only way he really wants to, you know, interact with humans. He doesn't want to just do it for the sake of doing it because he doesn't like humans, which fair. I mean, they imprisoned him. So I think the dynamic between the fairies and the humans are, of course, an interesting fantasy element. Yeah, I just think it's one of those like just fluffier fantasy series. I know it sounds weird when I say that, but you know, it's not too dark, at least yet. And I think that obviously Anne is this good human, or at least is being portrayed as a good human, that will probably melt Chale? I don't know how you say his name, but Chale's heart. And yeah, I just really think he's super hot, and their relationship is cute so far. I am excited to see more of them. Up is another fantasy series, and that is The Valiant Must Fall. Honestly, I pre-ordered this one so long ago. I didn't even remember what it was about. I just kind of started reading it, and I was like, oh, it's like feudal Japan era type, Meiji era of Japan, where, you know, people fighting with katanas, they're dressed in that way, in that style of the time. And I'm just like, it's not usually my cup of tea. Stories, samurai, sword type things aren't usually my favorite. There are exceptions, of course. Gintama's a banger, but that's a mashup of that time period and Alien, so like... And this one is a mashup as well, so I was pleasantly surprised. This one is a mashup between that regular time period, the normal time period of Japan, and these immortal beings. So it all starts when a former samurai, Haruyasu, is spared and does not end up dying in this huge war, and his whole family does. So he has really no reason to live, and he's eager to die, and he meets this girl who he thinks he's killed, and then she comes back to life. And yeah, it kind of gives me Momo the Blood Taker concept wise without a lolly. At least, I mean, she's kind of youngish looking, but like, because she's dressed more modestly so far, it's not as weird. So I do like that. I mean, obviously they're not vampires, they're just immortal beings. So she enlists Haruyasu for this mission, and it gives him a purpose to live. So he decides to accompany her. And yeah, I mean, was I blown away by the first volume? No, but I was pleasantly surprised, at least. I like when there's fantasy elements in my story, what can I say? And I was kind of nervous as I started reading this with all the Meiji information being tossed at me and all that again. And I was just like, oh boy, it's another one of these. But then we get these immortal beings, and my interest is immediately piqued. And last but certainly not least, Insomniacs After School. So I did my monthly haul wrap-up video before this one, but I mentioned in that one that someone did recommend this as a non-shoujo type romance, and I had actually seen that it was getting published in English, and I was curious about it, partially because I have suffered from insomnia, especially when I was younger. It's really hard for me to shut my brain off and go to sleep. And now I've mostly gotten it down to a science that I'm better at falling asleep, and for the most part staying asleep. It annoys me the most when I get, like, when I just randomly will wake up in the early morning hours and just be wide awake, and it's like, why can't I go back to sleep? And I don't get tired until the sun starts to come out. Like, I swear, it's weird. But yeah, so I do think I have more of a mild case of insomnia, and I think stress plays a lot into it. So yeah, I could really relate to these two characters. I like how they kind of just happened upon each other, both trying to just get a nap in at school because they're cranky and tired and can't seem to fall asleep at night. So they run into each other in the old astronomy observatory tower. And from there, they kind of begin this Insomniac club. And they bond over their mutual problem that they don't really want to talk to anyone else about because they don't want other people to worry about them. And they kind of decide to entertain themselves and entertain each other by meeting up at night and having the night pass in a more enjoyable way than just watching the hands on the clock tick by. So I really like this. I think it's the start of a super cute friendship, and then you can already see there's like a hint of something more maybe happening. And yeah, I'm definitely excited. I pre-ordered volume 2 before I read volume 1. I like to get the first 2 volumes at least, just to see what I think of the series. So I usually do that for the most part. And I'm really excited for volume 2 now. I'm definitely, like, it's one of those I'd put in the vein of Shigemori is not just a cutie, or Miss Miyozen would like to get closer, where it's like a soft, more wholesome type of series. So yeah, those were the volume 1s that I was able to read this month, and it was a really good bunch. I didn't really have a disappointing read. If I had to pick one, my least favorite read was probably The Valiant Must Fall. It wasn't bad by any means, but it probably gripped me the least. It had a lot of that Meiji era dialogue and background, and information dump, which I mean obviously is necessary because I'm not super familiar with like this warlord and that battle and whatnot, but it also just like goes right just in one ear out the other, just like do not retain it, all the names. But then once it got more fantasy towards the end, I was like, yes. So I wouldn't consider it a bad read at all, and I enjoyed all of them. They were really promising reads, and I look forward to reading more of all the series. With that, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Manga family if you haven't already, and get notified for next Monday's video because that's my haul video of all my April pickups. And you'll see these ones again, but you'll also see a bunch of other manga I may or may not have ordered. And yeah, I hope to see you there. Until next time, bye!